Igiugig sits amongst an archaeological district, so we always say our people have been in the area since the beginning of time.
The village used to be over there. When I was young, really young, we used to have a lot of snow and it was colder than it is now.
We're going through a pretty trying and difficult time in our lives right now here in Alaska and in the Arctic. In terms of climate change, literally our people have been talking about these experiences for a very long time.
Very expensive to get food up to these villages. There's no roads. Everything has to be flown in. Fresh vegetables are hard to come by.
We're a village of young leaders, and we've done a lot of trial and error.
Just realize yourself as part of a greater whole. And maybe the world will do whatever works for them, but we have tried to be a model community here. This is the Kvichak River. The Kvichak River is the most special river in the entire world. It flows from Lake Iliamna, which is the largest freshwater lake in Alaska. Most of the residents in Igiugig pack their drinking water from the river to this day because the water is so pristine. My name is Alexandra Salmon. I'm 27-year-old tribal administrator of Igiugig Village Council. We're close to 70 year-round people, and a lot of our people travel, so right now I think we're missing 4 people. We design our own roads and build them, cradle to grave projects. We also have the largest salmon run in the world coming up the river. That's sockeye salmon. Igiugig gets a lot of tourists. We have 24 commercial operators that use the Kvichak River. 4 or 5 establishments that are based in and around Igiugig. Most people are here for fishing. The Kvichak River is known for the rainbow trout and salmon that we have.
He has a lodge about 15 miles over that way, the next big lake over. Alaska's not like it was when I was young. You get more and more people coming in for tourists. These bugs don't bother me. It's those doggone no-see-ums. My name is Randolph Alvarez, and here in the village, I'm the vice president of the village council. All the villages in the region burn diesel to generate electricity. Presently, we spend a lot of our resources on buying diesel. If we had other means to produce electricity, like wind turbines or hydro, we'd be spending a lot less of our budget buying fuel, and we could spend that money on other things.
Diesel fuel has tripled in price in the last decade, so we have people who are literally living in energy poverty, people who are paying $600, $700, $800 a month just to electrify their house and heat their home, and that's not sustainable. The folks in Igiugig are actually well beyond, the idea of we should do something, and now they're really working hard to test some of these technologies.
The solar collectors will generate heat from the sun and run through a buried copper pipe to a hot water heater in the house. My name is Carl Hill. I live in Igiugig, Alaska. It's a really tight home and really well insulated. These walls are a little thicker than some of the standard 2x6.
How long do you want to stay here?
1 year. 3 years ago. What makes Igiugig special is some motivated individuals that just keep looking for new answers to some of our energy problems.
Before, when they looked at Igiugig, they said, we really don't have a wind source. And then I'd look around, we'd have major windstorms. So I was like, we do have wind power. The greenhouse is powered by 3 wind turbines. With the lodges, there's really good partnerships with them to sell produce. That is a head of cabbage.
Yeah. We just picked our last cauliflower.
It's enormous. So look at the condition of the tomatoes. The idea is it wouldn't make a lot of money unless it could have an extended season. So now we can heat and power this building for relatively cheap. These lodges, most of them are 5-star. They're serving gourmet meals. So we're feeding the wealthy, producing for the wealthy. There's no pressure involved.
I think one of the things people don't recognize or acknowledge about traditional knowledge is that it is dynamic. It's not static. Traditional knowledge is not only what I have learned from generations past, but all of the experiences that I have and that I pass on to my children and grandchildren. It's the way that we live. That's why we've been able to survive in the harshest of climates and the worst of times.
I think we're seeing extreme shifts. The winters used to get colder and the snow lasts longer and the ice lasts longer than it is now.
The Arctic is getting a preview of what could happen elsewhere in the world when oceans rise and the behavior of the ocean changes as a result of climate change. In the Arctic, it's bigger storms because of less sea ice, and that causes coastal erosion.
We live on water systems. We live in those places that are going to see more damage as time goes by.
We're blessed to live the lifestyle we have out here, but there's this sense that we keep our river pristine, that we keep our environment clean, because ultimately we'll hurt ourselves.
What you have here is our recycling center.
And so we started a strong recycling program.
The reason this is important for young people and our future generations is it teaches them to be respectful of our land and our environment.
I felt like I had the greatest childhood here in Igiugig. My sisters and I had moved and lived elsewhere and got an education and thought, this is where our kids need to be raised. We want them to have the same, if not greater, experience than we had. And that's why we've moved back. We're trying to build a sustainable village, and we have this higher quality of life that we've self-determined